it's stressful, but not overly stressful. And then every time the bands get me music, it's like Christmas Day.
Hello and welcome to Where the Living Room Used to Be, a podcast about Rhode Island's music scene. Hey everyone, it's James. Last week I caught up with Paul Dechichio on Instagram Live to talk about Tor Johnson Records' 20th anniversary subscription series. But for those of you that weren't able to check it out, I wanted to rebroadcast it here for you in podcast form. In our conversation, Paul and I discussed what goes into planning and producing a series such as this, the diverse bands that are included, and he lets out a few secrets of what special goodies come with a subscription. Enjoy the episode, and definitely please consider purchasing a subscription at torjohnsonrecords.com. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to talk to you about all the big stuff you have going on, and just what you've kind of been up to. Those that might not be familiar, Paul and I connected for a full interview. Came out in July of 2019. You were one of the first few people that I interviewed, which I appreciate very much. I forgot what episode it was, but it was probably like 5 or something like that. And now I'm up to, I don't know, now you're like the 50th as we're coming back around, which is pretty cool. So, but yeah, that interview gets into, a much deeper history of you and everything that you're involved in, the bands you've played in, everything with Tor Johnson, Teeth Like Sword, screen printing. So I'm sure we'll touch on some of that stuff. But really for tonight, I just wanted to kind of learn a little bit more about your 20th anniversary subscription series. It's so amazing that you're doing this. And, but at that same time, knowing you and just knowing a little bit of behind the scenes of putting records out, a subscription series is a big endeavor, so how did that idea come about, and why is that the way that you want to celebrate 2 decades of being a label?
Good question. It's funny, I was thinking about it recently. This guy who's reviewed a bunch of my releases in the past, Nick Spacek, he used to run Nuthouse Punks. In his review for the 15th anniversary compilation, he said, so 10 years was a 7-inch, 15 years for 20 years, are we going to get a box set? And I just recently remembered that quote and thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
Originally, I really like the idea of a subscription series. I like the idea of like a monthly thing that maybe you don't even know what's on it. Originally I started thinking about this in, it was probably February or March of 2020, just like sort of had the idea going, maybe just before stuff shut down, that I think that would be a fun idea. And the original idea was probably only 5 or 6 7-inches. And it was pretty much only going to be bands on the label. And I remember talking to Tyler Daniel Bean about it, probably in April or May of 2020, and put the idea out there that I know a lot of people. I've booked a lot of bands. There's a lot connected to the label outside of just the bands I've put out. And why not just ask some bigger acts that I have a connection with, and it sort of has snowballed from there. And now it's going to be 12 7-inches. Yeah. So it's a shipment every single month and a different 7-inch every single month. And it's kind of been crazy. The the bands that have said yes are still to this day are still blowing my mind.
Yeah. Well, Tyler just hopped on. I don't know if you're seeing who's on, but what's up, Tyler? Thanks for pushing Paul to do this. So what's up, man? But yeah, I mean, I kind of like. Is there? I mean, it sounds like there's a lot, and I don't want to single any out. But was there one artist that was like a complete shot in the dark that you're like, I'm just gonna send this email. I know it's gonna be maybe nothing, but is there one of the people that's going to be on this series that you're like most kind of maybe like surprised about in a sense that they said yes?
So the very first sort of bigger ask and like kind of push, and I mean, I purposely sort of with the promotion of this listed all the bands like alphabetical and not really necessarily given away what splits are happening, but
like who's paired together.
Yeah, but in the spirit of this interview, I'll probably letting out some secrets. So one of those is the Tyler split is actually with Into It Over It, and so that was the first bigger ask. And he said yes, like right away. And so that sort of just emboldened me to like ask anyone pretty much.
No, that's cool. I mean, I guess we can go down the list for those that aren't familiar. So as Paul just said, it's going to be 12 7-inches released each month, all of 2022 to mark the 20th anniversary. So I have the list. Do you want me to just go through the list, or do you want to?
No, go ahead.
All right. And this is in alphabetical order. I will do my best to. You might have to help me with some pronunciations, though. I'll just give you. So we've got All Right, The Body, Cyttorak, Dikembe, Dreamwell, Heavy Mantle, Horsewhip, Hundreds of All right.
AU.
Okay. Ian O'Neill from Deer Tick, Into It Over It, Late Bloomer, My Fictions, No Trigger, Nova One, Peace Test, Pogo? Is that correct?
Pogo.
Pronunciation? All right. Save Ends, Sidetracker, Signals Midwest, Slingshot Dakota, Storm Davis, Thou, and Tyler Daniel Bean. So that is an incredible list.
Yeah.
Sorry to just list it that way, but just to give you a little snapshot. And yeah, I'm assuming that it's going to be Cyttorak and Nova One is the other matchup, right? Is that? Yeah, I'm sure Rod is down for that. So, but yeah, like how long? You mentioned that you started to kind of put this idea together March 2020. How long did it take to actually complete that list? I mean, it's a long list. It's a diverse list. Some of them are people that are on your label, Heavy Mantle, like people that are probably like a quick text message of like, hey, what's up, guys? Doing a series, and like, just, like texted you back like, yeah, whatever, but how long did it take to actually get this together for you?
So, the list was actually evolving up until last month.
Okay.
So there were a bunch of bands that said yes and then fell off, and then stuff happens. So there was a last minute replacement last month actually before I launched the pre-orders, and but I would say a large majority of it was pretty locked in by December 2020, maybe January 2021 in that general range. And COVID obviously made a lot of things difficult. Made a lot of bands weren't practicing. A lot of bands weren't sure if they were ever going to be able to get something to me. So there was a bit of limbo for some bands, and then stuff sort of got locked in or switched around this summer. Like a lot, like I'd say 99% of it got locked in over the summer.
Yeah. Because, again, these are all exclusive tracks, correct? Like you were looking for something that is unreleased, and it won't be released until 2023. So this is the only way to hear this is by signing up for a subscription, or getting one of these 7-inches, I guess I should say.
Right. So initially, the talk to bands was something that hadn't been released, at least physically. It ended up that all the songs that are on here are completely unreleased.
Mm-hmm.
Some are covers, some are originals, some are remixes. Like the Cyttorak song, actually, we gave to a local noise artist, and he deconstructed it and reconstructed it. So it's a remix of a song that had been released.
Yeah. Who's the artist that did it? Can you?
I feel so bad. I don't know if I don't think he's watching. So Josh Yell, who's an amazing local artist, he was in a band called Kintan. He does a noise project. Yeah. So he does a noise project that I believe is pronounced Lummox, but it's LVMMVX.
Okay.
And so normally it's with a cello and with tons of effect pedals and things like that. So he took a Cyttorak song and slowed it down and added cello and added other noise to it, and it came out really cool.
So he slowed down the Cyttorak song.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And some of the bands have only done one song, some have done a couple, and yeah.
That's awesome. And how has it been putting this together, with the record plants? I mean, again, you just kind of mentioned 2020, vinyl pressing plants are super delayed and everything like that. Is this, I don't know, this is maybe a boring question, but I'm just did you have to place an order for all of these now when they'll be coming in, or are you placing 12 orders and they'll be kind of spaced out? How did you have to work with the plant? Did you work with the U.S. plants only? Again, we talked about this in our full interview of how important that is. So I'm assuming you're still working with it's musical, right? I don't know if it's still them, but
I'm working.
But yeah, can you talk about what that's like, of actually putting together 12 releases at once?
So it's definitely been stressful.
Yeah.
Initially, the idea was that all 12 were going to go to the plant at the same time. They were going to go to the plant over the summer, and then I just have them and be able to piecemeal them out every month. That obviously didn't happen. Due to COVID and due to so many different limitations from the bands, not everyone was able to have a song done. So 5 of the 7-inches are at the plant right now. So that's January through May. I am working with Music Hall. Warren over there is amazing. He promised me at least the first one by the end of December, so I'll be able to get it in the mail.
Your heart's come on, man.
Then, the next 4 are going to get mastered this coming week. I'm waiting on one band to finish mixing. And then the last 3 probably won't go to the plant until January. And all of them, all the sides and everything, are getting mastered by Will Killingsworth at Dead Air. So he's trying to make it sound as cohesive as possible.
Okay, that's smart. Yeah. Cool.
At the end, it'll be up on my Bandcamp as one big compilation, basically. So that's January 2023. We'll release digital.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
This is available as a subscription series, which includes a bunch of, I don't know if you want to call it bonus stuff, but it just includes so many more things. It's very incentivized to get the subscription series. Not only does it help you, even in just like the 15 minutes we've been talking of just the amount of work that goes into this, and just to support someone that has been supporting so many people as you have for 20 years. But it's we can kind of talk about that. But you can also get this. Some of them will be available through the bands and select record stores as well. Is there any differentiation with some of the vinyl? Is it all one color for the vinyl? Is there anything? I don't know. Just throwing that out there, I guess.
Yeah, sure. So they're all going to be black vinyl.
Cool.
Yeah. With the exception of, and I hope I'm not spilling the pot on this, Into It Over It has his own Patreon, and so we teamed up with him for that 7-inch. There's going to be some that end up going to his Patreon, and I think we're doing those on clear. But otherwise, yeah. So otherwise, every single record is limited to 100 on black vinyl. 50 subscriber slots. So the subscribers get all 12 of them and like tons of other shit. And then the other 50, 10 are going to stores, and then 20 are going to each band on the record. So each band is going to have some for sale on their particular split. But the only way to get all of them is, and guarantee you get it because each band is getting so limited amount, is to sign up for the whole thing.
Yeah. And all of the covers, I guess that's a good segue to that. There's this guy, Paul, that runs a print shop called Teeth Like Swords. I don't know if you've met him, but he's been working really hard. Can you talk about the jackets? And I don't know. I mean, I guess the question I'll ask you is, have you learned nothing over the last 20 years? And why are you printing 1,500 jackets? You know,
because obviously. So, I thought it was really important that, like, I have a great affinity for record history, like of vinyl itself, of like the history that goes into releases. Before LPs in the days of the 45, the artwork involved was like always really interesting to me.
Yeah.
So you can point out like within a 5 to 10 year span exactly when a record was put out by what label was used. You know, because all the record labels used a standard 45 label for the face. So as sort of a callback to that, the sleeve artwork is an old Atlantic sleeve that was used in the later 50s. And so, all of these 45s would just come in plain paper sleeves that were advertisements for the record label itself. So it didn't matter what record was in it. All the sleeves were the same. We ripped that off and but did it on chipboard instead of paper, and then left little sections for me to number them. So like each month will be a number, and then they'll be hand numbered which actually release it is, like 1 out of 100, 2 out of 100, etc.
Yep.
And then the inner label that we used, John Pagano actually helped me with. For those of you who don't know, he is in Solace and Weak Teeth and Best Practices, and he helped sort of rip off an old Bell Records label.
Okay.
So it's kind of a callback to that.
Yep.
And they're all going to be big hole, so they're all going to be like definitely a callback to like old original 45s.
That's cool. Do they come actually with the little inserts? Because you had some of those made, right? Do you have any of those?
So the ones that we had done in the past were for the Aneurysm record, and we had somebody with a 3D printer print up brain adapters, so they were with a 3D brain. And so we are. I'll let spill this. I haven't let it out yet. One of the goodies that we have, I just got the design today, is going to be a 45 adapter. It's not going to be 3D printed. It's just going to be like a flat circular one. but with a Tor Johnson design. And so hopefully that'll go out with the first shipment and might go out with the second. We'll see when I actually get them. But yeah, so one of many goodies that are included within the subscription series.
Yeah, that rules. So how's printing going? I know that you've,
the jackets are doing well. I think I'm 900 out of 1,500 printed.
Yeah, cool.
So, and then in general, the shop is doing really well. I actually just today finished a massive rush order for a little-known metal band called Exhumed.
Okay.
So they're getting a mid-tour re-up that we just finished printing today.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess with the subscription series, you have mentioned that it comes with an exclusive shirt. So surely be keeping busy printing that as well.
Always.
Do you have that design together? Is it something that's still kind of in the works?
We're kind of in the works. I have the idea together, but I'm going to be tapping a lot of local artists that I've either worked with before on releases or worked with before on poster art, things like that. The label, the design for the 45 adapter is actually local comic book artist M. Robillard is doing that.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So M just got the design over to me. And it's awesome. And I'm going to be working with Jared McPhee, who I've worked with often. He's actually I can say a Hasbro designer, so I'm going to be working with a Hasbro. And then there's a couple other artists that I started talking to, but haven't flushed anything out yet. There's probably going to be like a screen printed poster on one of the months, tote bag. There'll probably end up being a couple shirts. So it's tough as like someone who comes from the DIY punk world, where I like to keep everything as cheap as possible, that like the price tag on this is like higher than I obviously want it to be. So I'm trying to supplement it with as many goodies and as many like extras as possible.
I've told you, like I'm a huge fan of, well, you personally, like you're a very inspirational person, but just a big fan of your label. And yes, you're more than generous with everything that you do. And then again, just like what you've done for the Rhode Island music scene and even beyond that. I mean, you've brought, bands from all over and because of who you are as a label, have kind of shown them a lot more here in Rhode Island, so it's amazing what you're doing. And it's just amazing that you've been doing it for 20 years, I don't know if you can look around at your peers, but, I was kind of quickly thinking about this. And you're always way more versed into this type of thing. But, who's been doing this consistently for 20 years, and, it's a tough business. It's, and it's something that's, again, when you and I talked, you do this for the love of it as a expensive hobby. Your logo says maxing out credit cards since 2002, so.
Precious pain, it's my body coming up against the wall. I'm not seeing it as a wall, instead of field in which I can grow, in which I can throw a ball that shall never run.
How many subscriptions are left out of the 50?
So we're just shy of the halfway point. I think 23 have been purchased. It's only been live for I think a week and a half. So it's already kind of surprising me. I let it up, I put up the pre-orders, initially quietly. I just put out an email blast and made a post on my personal Facebook. And it was more because I wanted people who have been with the label to get, first crack. I just got the ask because, I mentioned that it was a high price point in my mind. It's $250. So it's $250 up front, but that also includes shipping for all 12 of the shipments. US. If you are not in the US, email me and we'll figure it out. So yeah, it's tough, trying to justify that price point, I guess. But when you do the math of what 100 pressings of a 7-inch is, it's a lot of money. Yeah.
And even just shipping has doubled in the last year, basically, so, and yeah, I think that I probably own more Tor Johnson records than any other record label in my collection. So yeah, it's Paul will take care of you. I am giving a personal endorsement, that Paul will take care of you. And, it's a cool project. And again, the list of bands that are a part of this are, just awesome. Just the caliber of artists and it's, not surprising, anyone that knows you, I don't know. I think that was there any arm twisting that, not that I see you as someone that would twist arms, but, I was talking to, some of I played in a band called Cedros, that we did a bunch of shows at Best Practices, and we did a bunch of shows at Squid Amps, which you booked, and which is an amazing DIY space in Providence, if you aren't familiar. But we were just kind of going through the list of people that came through Squid Amps, which was, as Caleb said, the size of a single car garage, basically. And it is, if that, but it was just this amazing list of people. And I guess that one thing that comes to mind real quick, and then I'll let you kind of speak about that, is that I don't know if you're familiar with the band Strip Mall. They're from Providence here, but I talked with them earlier in the year, and their new EP, Strip Mall's new EP, is fantastic. And to me, it's very reminiscent of Chicago Bulls from Dikembe. And I mentioned that to them, and their heads blew off because they're just huge Dikembe fans. And I said, well, Paul knows them, so I'm just publicly saying that if Dikembe ever comes through, that I'm sure that Strip Mall would like to play a show with Dikembe, so I'll try to connect those guys. But but yeah, check out Strip Mall. They're an amazing band in that realm as well. But yeah, was there any any person that you were kind of holding out for in this series, or someone that you kind of had to be ask more than once, basically?
Yeah, I mean, so there were definitely splits that were planned that sort of fell apart. One of them was, for example, there was going to be a timeshares restorations one. Wow. Which I was very excited about. And restorations, I don't know if they have still not practiced, but when finally we were like, this is not happening, it was maybe June of recently, that just happened, June.
Yeah.
And
this year,
yeah, still hadn't been in the same room together, and they just couldn't commit to it. And then, so that one sort of fell apart, and then Soul Glow was supposed to be involved. Okay. And I don't know whether it was the combination of all of the tours that they're currently on, or they got signed to Epitaph, so I don't know if it was what, but like it sort of just fell through the cracks.
Yeah.
So there were definitely bands that I allowed a lot of extra time to like commit because of whatever was because of the state of the world, you know?
Yeah.
Every 2 to 3 months would send an email that's like, hey, just checking in.
Yeah. Yeah. This would be really cool, you know? Yeah.
So it was more that than like trying to give as much leeway as possible based on the state of the world, than actual arm twisting, you know? But yeah, all in all, it's been great. I mean, anyone who's ever dealt with bands or been in bands behind the scenes know that it's hurting cats. So
yeah.
then trying to deal with 24 of them is, you know, I knew what I was doing.
You're including your own bandmates, right? You're like,
it's like Christmas Day. One of the easiest ones to work with. It was, you know, it's stressful, but not overly stressful. And then every time the bands get me music, it's like Christmas Day, and like all the songs are amazing, and everything has been like, there's not a single track on here. I mean, obviously I wouldn't tell you if there was, but there's not a single track on here that like isn't a banger. Like everything sounds great. Like right out of the gate, the January one, both bands decided to cover the same band. So it's like all covers, which is kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Some of the bands decided to do an original and cover the band on the opposite side, so they had to cover each other's songs. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
There's also more than one song on with some of these releases.
So I gave the bands free reign. I told them they could do one song.
You've got whatever 5-6 minutes or whatever fits on a 7-inch. Yeah.
The song, like Dreamwell, for example, had a song ready to go. It is 49 seconds long. They were, here you go. Here's our side. I was like, okay, it's fine. I mean, it's awesome. It's a killer song. It sounds absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But so that's like obviously an extreme, but you know, other bands like Sidetracked, for example, play like sort of power violence stuff. So they have 9 songs, and I think it's like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
nice.
But then conversely, you know, like Into It Over Its stuff and Tyler's stuff, it's like 2 songs and it takes up the whole side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that kind of brings to mind, I mean, looking through the roster of bands that you have on this, how much of a conscious decision was to have different sounds, different styles? I mean, from Ian of Beer Tick to, you know, a power violence band, or, you know, like, was that something that you had planned during that original thought of like, I want to do something that even diverts from what I would say Tor Johnson Records is like most familiar with? I mean, obviously the bands that you put out spans, you know, hardcore and, you know, emo and indie and stuff like that. But, you know, working with like Storm Davis and stuff like that, like how much of that was, you know, pre-planned of wanting to have different styles and sounds?
That was definitely premeditated. Once it grew to the like monthly and the like the scope that it is now, it was definitely a conscious decision to span genres, because the label has always spanned genres. You know, like I always joke that I only put out music that like genres I like, and the only things that I haven't put out so far are like jazz and hip hop. But I like both of those. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, I know you like jazz. I don't but, yeah.
Those are the only genres that I enjoy that I haven't put out yet. So Storm Davis was definitely, he was one of the first asks as well. So for those of you that don't know, Storm is a local hip hop guy. He is also the label manager for Strange Famous Records, which is Sage's label. And he and I nerd out about record stuff all the time. We like Storm is an amazing person, and he and I will just nerd out about like, you know, when tapes started coming back. It was like, have you seen, like, is this real? Like,
yeah.
And you know, then I'll be like, all right, well, I tried it, man. I put out a tape and like it sold. And he's like, all right, well, I think we'll try it. Why not? And it worked. And then like, I'm like, oh, have you heard about these lathe cuts? Like, these are like really, really weird. And he's like, oh, I don't know, maybe we'll try it. And like, it's a cool relationship that he and I have, like, on the back end of the industry, you know?
Yeah.
So it was really cool to have him involved. I've printed a bunch of stuff that he's done, a bunch of stuff for Strange Famous. And I, like, he, technically speaking, his is the only one that's not a split. One side is like him and also another MC, and then the other side is him and a different MC. But I sort of just gave him free reign of the release. I was like, you know, let's have fun. Like, you want to put an instrumental inside? Like, what do you want to do? The splits in general, there was sort of two different approaches that I had to them. Either I had in my brain what I wanted, like, the two bands to be, and sort of sync them up. And then other ones where I had a band and asked them who they wanted to, like, who do you think? Who would you want to do?
Okay.
You know?
That's cool.
So it was fun sort of putting it all together. Like, for the most part, most of them are similar musically, with the exception of, I'll let this one cat out of the bag as well. Heavy Mantle, the other side with them is Thou, actually.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. So that was a pairing because they used to share practice spaces together, and they're friends. Like,
all right. Yeah.
Both bands are down in Baton Rouge, New Orleans area, and like, I personally love splits like that. I love splits that like are not necessarily the same musically, but like, if you know the history of the bands, it like goes together. Yeah, so that one like literally was talking to Billy from Heavy Mantle, and I was like, I don't know, who do you think? Like, you know bands, like, who would you want to do one with? It's like, oh well, we used to share a space with Thou. Let's ask them. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure,
okay, that's cool. Yeah, I'll shout out that Heavy Mantle record rules. Like, if people haven't checked that out, go and check that one. It's awesome. So it's really, that's one of the bands that I was not familiar with until I saw you put that out and be like, hey, I'm putting out this band from Baton Rouge. Yeah. And I was like, I probably would have never had them on my radar. So, and that's just one of the cool things of connecting with independent labels and supporting independent labels, is just the introduction to new, interesting music that, you know, might not ever, you know, reach people. And I feel like I'm a pretty engaged music listener, but, you know, it's something that I appreciate. But no, I mean, this sounds just really exciting. I can't wait to see what comes in the mail. But yeah, no, this is just really cool to learn more about it. It's, again, just inspirational to see how much you push. And because I mean, I've watched that from the 15th anniversary was, you know, a killer compilation on vinyl, and but it was just like, you know, 5 years later now it's this other big thing to push yourself. So is there anything else that you wanted to bring up? I mean, again, like, shout out where you can buy this, and is there like a certain deadline that you're putting on of, I mean, obviously we'll sell them when you sell them, I guess, but like, is there like a certain time frame that you're looking to button some of this stuff up?
Sure. Yeah. So torjohnsonrecords.com, in the show, in the store tab, there's a pre-orders. There it is. The goal is to try to have this sold out by the end of the year at the latest. Really, so full disclosure, the 50 subscription series basically pays for the vinyl and the mastering. Like, I'm not making any money on this. So for everything to really work correctly, hopefully everything sells out by the end of the year. And then people can just buy them from the bands if they missed out, or stores. So right now it's Red Scroll Records, Wanna Hear It, Limited to One, and Lunchbox in Charlotte are the only stores who will have them. There's a couple more that I'm talking to, but nothing exact set in stone yet. And yeah, it's I'm excited. I'm excited to show everybody the splits. I'm excited to get them in people's hands. Although they won't be available digitally for people to hear until the whole year comes up. I wouldn't be surprised if some, ingenuitous people out there were to put up YouTube videos. People do what people do.
There's no way to put vinyl into a digital format, Paul. I don't know what you're talking about. You have
to wait. You have to wait.
Yeah. But still, don't be a dick. Come on, like but like everyone's pirating this shit. So
it's funny. Leading up to it, a couple people were like, "Oh, you should press more of these. Like, people are gonna flip them." And I'm like, "Well, I mean, hopefully not. Like, there's only 100 of them. Hopefully, there's 100 people out there that want to actually own this record. But also, if it happens, it happens. Like, the whole idea was that it's like super limited, and then it's just out in the world."
Yeah. With what you said, kind of deadline. I'll also pitch it to people that it's a great gift idea. My wife, even before this interview, she said, I'm going to just let you know that I buy you the subscription for. I've
been trying not.
Yeah. No, I guess I'll even admit to that. She thinks that I'm skinnier than I actually am, so I might need to change my shirt size before you do it. So I appreciate that, and I love my wife very much, but I'm like, I'm not that skinny anymore. But I am legitimately like really excited about it, and like the idea of, I mean, it's a cliche and I'll say it anyway, but just like, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Like, you can get this gift and it's going to be like for the next year. I mean, even with this, like, you teased a couple of things, but there's still so much that I don't know that I want to know of, but at that same time, I don't, like, I just want to kind of get this thing delivered and look at what it is, find out who's connected, listen to it. So yeah, anyone that's listening, there's not a whole lot of slots left, but get one just and give it as a gift to your, to someone that loves music, that loves vinyl, that loves independent record labels. It's just this really cool thing. So I will shout that out as well. So it doesn't just have to be for you, but no, she just mentioned it like an hour ago. She's like, I need to let you know. So, but which is good, which I appreciate.
She messaged me and she's like, "So how do we do this so I can like transfer it onto his account?" And I'm like, like, you don't need to just put in the address. You live at the same address. Just put in his name.
Yes, I do live with my wife. Yes, yeah.
She thought it needed to be under your like sign in on the store for it to be
okay.
And I was like, no, it's totally cool.
Yeah,
like, don't worry about it.
Probably just be like, it's under James, Yeah. No, but I'm really excited about it, and I don't know. This has been really fun to talk and connect with you, Paul, about this stuff, and I definitely again recommend checking out the subscription series. Just a bunch of cool. Even just what we've learned, like all of the unknown stuff that's going to be coming is super awesome. So, recommend checking that out, and then check out Tor Johnson Records back catalog. I mean, you're at like 50 something releases, and It's some really amazing stuff there. Some, Rhode Island based bands that have kind of come from that, Squid Amps Collective, but just some amazing stuff from all over. And just keep it up, Paul. Get some sleep. I'm sure that you're probably not sleeping that much trying to keep all this stuff organized or trying to print all these cards and print all the jackets. And thanks for taking the time to talk, and we'll connect soon.
Thank you so much for having me, James. This was great. It was fun to be able to let a couple cats out of the bag. If anyone is local and sees me in public, I totally am generally more willing to speak openly about everything when it's not recorded, because I want to build the hype, man, Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's been fun being able to let out a couple secrets. It's been fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Paul. I will definitely talk to you soon, and hopefully see you around the neighborhood, man.
Sounds good. Thanks, James.
Cool. Thanks, everyone that watched, and we'll talk to you soon.
As Paul mentioned in our conversation, his band Cyttorak is having one of their songs remixed for the series, so I thought it'd be fun to share the original with you here. The song is Dominion Lord of Coldharbour, which is off of their EP Simultaneous Invocation of Apocalyptic Harbingers. Definitely recommend you checking that out, and really can't wait to hear the remix of the song when I get the 7-inch in. So enjoy!